Oh, oh,
हॅलो हॅलो
ah,
होय बोला ना.
oh, सहनो भुनक्तु
चुकीचं आहे ते. तुम्ही पवना सहकारी बँक लागली का तुम्हाला? मग तुम्ही जेव्हा निमणांच्या बंगल्यावरनं पवना सहकारी बँकेकडे येत होता
अस्तु
तेव्हा पवना सहकारी बँकेनंतर डावीकडे वळायचंय तुम्हाला.
आवहै. ओम शांति शांति शांति. Okay, yes. Up. Mute पे हाँ शजिया.
Okay. Sir, maybe start from 10.28.
येस प्लीज.
Yes.
आयुधानाम् अहं वज्रं धेनूनामस्मि कामधुक् प्रजनश्चास्मि कन्दर्पः सर्पाणाम् अस्मि वासुकिः.
Okay. So then now he says that among the weapons, I'm the thunderbolt. Among the cows, I'm the celestial cow, Kamdhenu. And I'm Kandarpa, the generative passion which leads to procreation. And among serpents, I'm Vasuki. So now he says, among the weapons, I'm the thunderbolt. So he is listing himself in the area of weapons also. Now these are objects. So there is a story about this thunderbolt. It is that there were these some asuras, very fearful and very evil asuras, and they had removed light and moisture, water from the earth, and the people on the earth were absolutely disturbed. And so they go to Vishnu, and Vishnu calls the divine carpenter, and he tells him, "Make me a weapon which will destroy these asuras." So then a weapon was made, and this was a thunderbolt, and or the Vajra. So and it was given to Indra, and when Indra hurled this weapon, out of that came light and water, and then that was restored back to earth. So he says, among the weapons, I am Vajra. So Vajra is a very strong weapon. So also it's like telling Arjun that I'm there in your weapons also. I'm there in all the weapons. Use your weapons. So yeah, these are things, if we meditate and go deep into it, we a lot of things come to light. And we understand the divine power, the divine presence, which makes all this possible. Then he says, among the celestial cows, or among the cows, I am the Dhenu, the Kamdhenu. Among the Dhenus, I am the Kamdhenu. Dhenu is the giver, a cow. A cow which gives milk, which gives cow dung, everything of the cow is used productively. So he says, I am the cow which sustains us. So besides mother's milk, if mother's milk is not available, which milk is there to sustain the baby? Cow's milk. So I am the cows. I am the cow which gives us so many things. The wish fulfilling cow or the life giving cow. Then he says, I am Kandarpa or the Kamdev among procreators, among things which help us to procreate. So I don't know if we remember that in the 7th chapter, he talks about passion or Kamdev, and there he says, Dharma aviruddho bhuteshu kamo asmi. In chapter 7, 7.11. He says, I am that passion which is unopposed to dharma. Now, for this creation to move on, we have to make the same like ourselves. Right? So now, how does that come about? Through the effect of Kamdev. It is love or passion which enters the heart of human beings, and then it happens. But then he says in the seventh chapter, he says, unopposed to dharma. So last class we incidentally had on Vajroli and on this kind of controlling the passion or controlling the fluid. So which is unopposed to dharma. So he says, I'm that. And then he says, among serpents, I am Vasuki. Now, Vasuki was used during the Amrit Manthan, churning of the ocean. So he says, among the serpents, I am Vasuki. Now, Vinoba says that the snakes are so clean, they are like hermits. He says, you may find an unclean Brahmin, but you will not find an unclean snake. And the snakes live in solitude in their holes. So he says that the snakes are so clean, they shed their skin and they live in solitude. The snake is like a hermit. So he says that every creation of God has God's power in it. So everything has to be worshipped. If we go deep into any creation, in any area of creation, it will lead us to Him. So these are the, Arjun is asking him that on what objects should I meditate so that I understand you in your fullest. So he says, meditate on, see me in the snake, see me in the weapons, see me in this and see me in that, see me in every area of your life. Okay, so much for this verse. Anything else? Now Vasuki is there. Yes.
Yeah. No. So actually, you're right. It holds true for all matter.
Yeah.
As physics penetrates into, virtually anything and everything, all elements and all they reach finally is nothingness.
Nothing. Yeah.
What they call is nothingness. It's fullness, but they call. So
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
You go deep into anything and you'll find him.
Absolutely. That Shunya state comes. Everything
So
goes into,
another implication is that we may undertake any field of activity, but we can still find him by going deep into it. But that is a lesson I think we forgot in India of looking for the spiritual in the worldly matter.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, true. When he says
We
about,
divided spirituality and material pursuits into two separate compartments.
Right.
You're right, sir. Because Dr. Jaydev always used to say spirituality is not divorced from life. Those were his words. Very often I have heard that. Spirituality is not divorced from life. Any area, whether it was money, it was now, even this, we've had discussions on this Kandarpa, Kamdev. I've had discussions with Hansaji on this, about Dr. Saab. So, she said that we got married and then till 2 years we didn't have a child. And then I said, I need a child. So he says, ठीक है, जब होगा तब हो जाएगा. So she said, कैसे होगा? So, so you see, everything, if it is bound by duty, everything is duty, then it's permissible. So, he would say that.
Yeah.
Within the bounds of dharma. So, yeah, very important role. And last time when we asked Mahendra ji to share, even he said that he's coming back to dharma. The idea of dharma is there, that I am there in everything. What you have to do is your duty. I am there in that Bhishma Pitama, I am there in Dronacharya, I am there in you. I am there in your weapons. I am there in Duryodhan. I am there in everything. You simply, ultimately it will come down to that. So everything unopposed to dharma is, because now we're going to come to gambling also. So yeah, we will discuss that when we come there. So, sir, shall we move on to the next verse?
One more
Yeah,
little.
just out of curiosity,
Yeah.
how does the snake clean itself? By licking?
It sheds the skin.
How does the snake clean itself?
Yeah, it sheds its skin.
It sheds it, but while the skin is not shed.
Yeah, while it is there, I think it just rolls on the ground. The skin is clean, and maybe it has, I don't know that, maybe it has a
Okay.
color,
Okay.
yeah, which is
Okay.
naturally clean, like the lotus leaf is naturally
Okay.
clean. Maybe sticks onto the snake's skin,
Okay. It is non-sticky.
non-sticky.
I
Maybe
see.
that's one
Uh,
explanation. And the other explanation is that periodically the snake sheds
yeah,
off
will shed the skin.
and it gets a new skin.
Right.
So it is one animal without limbs.
Yeah.
So a lot of importance has been given to the snake and snake worship in Indian scriptures.
Right.
So it has some meaning. It's a symbol of strength, symbol of renewal.
And in the Western world, the snake represents the carnal passion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that
In
also.
Freudian psychology, for example, I think it is
Yeah,
symbolized as carnal. It's a symbol of carnal passion.
in the so many, every religion has
Yeah.
different meanings for the snake.
Mhm.
Yeah, and we have this Kundalini Shakti, which is
Right. Right.
you know, compared to a snake, like the snake coiled up. It's an imaginary thing. So,
Right.
yeah. Anyway, so this is about this.
Just one, shall we say, addition to what you had, in terms of going deep into any activity.
Yeah.
Just that, from an individual perspective,
So,
activity must be in line with the Swadharma.
sorry, with?
I'm saying with the one's Swadharma.
Yes.
I mean, you can go deep, definitely you'll find, but I think the facilitation in terms of ability to go deep will come much easier when it is in line with what we may call as our strengths or our Swadharma. Call it what you will.
Yeah. True.
That's the just the caveat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That going deep also, that endeavor has to be like Swadharma, as you said.
Consistent.
The going deep is not for material benefits, but as a Swadharma, as a duty.
That's for dharma. Yeah.
No. That right. That is also right. That going deep by itself is dharma
Yeah.
because you are expanding your identity by going deep. You always become. But area in which you go deep
Yeah.
has to be in line with your sanskar or swadharma. That it becomes easier to go deep therein. I mean, okay, just to take a very gross example,
Yeah.
if I, as an individual, if I'm asked to go deep in technology, I may somehow be able to eventually, but I'll find it extremely difficult and I'll give it the first possible instance. Right? Whereas in some other area, maybe related to psychology or some related area, I'm much easier to go within simply because somehow it is in tune with my internal programming.
True.
So it's the area in which to go deep is in line with one's inclinations.
Correct. Everything, the foundation of everything has to be dharma. Because even in Arjun's case, when he says, I don't want to fight the war, but I want to retire into the forest, that was not his dharma. How would he go deep into God?
Correct.
He had to go deep into the weapons and into the collecting of the wealth and collecting of the army and building up his strength, bodily strength. So, right, absolutely. It has to be within the boundaries of the dharma. any area which we go in, but he's laying out so many areas for the benefit of everybody because he's
Correct.
there for everything.
Correct. And also different personalities, are programmed to emphasize different things. So he is, as you rightly said, laying out the entire list.
Yeah,
So whoever is more attached or who is more inclined towards whatever can see
yeah,
God therein.
true, very true. So we can maybe go on to the next verse.
Yeah. Anantashasmi Naganam Varuno Yadasamaham Pitrunam Aryama Chasmi Yamas Sanyamatamaham.
Yeah. So then he says, among the Nagas, I am Anant, the serpent god. I am Varun, the lord of aquatic creatures. Among the mains, I am Aryama. Among the rulers, I am Yam. So now he's going on to the serpents again, but now he's naming Anant. Anant Nag is the serpent on which the earth is resting. Now this Nags will be earlier. He says, "I am the." He spoke about Vasuki, and now he's serpent, and now he's talking about the Nagas. Nagas are the hooded serpents, the hooded snakes. So in this case, Anant is the one on which the earth rests. So he says, I am Anant. And then he says, I'm Varun, the lord of aquatic creatures. Then he says, I am Aryama among the males. Aryama is also the sun god. It's one of the names for the sun god. The mains, the ancestors. It is believed that there is a special loka where the ancestors live till they get another birth. So when you pass away from earth, you enter a different loka, and the chief of that loka is Aryama, which is actually the sun god. And it's like telling you that I am there in ancestors. I was there before, I am there now, but I was there before also. I'm there all the time. And worship of the ancestors is given a lot of importance in culture and in many other cultures also all over the world. The Jews, most of Asia has this, tribute to the ancestors. They have days which are observed, like we have the Shrad. They also have certain days where they worship the ancestors. So he says, I am the lord of the ancestors. I am Aryama, which is the sun god. Then he says, I'm Yam, among the rulers, or he's using the word Sanyam Tam. So, rulers or the discipliners or the controllers, one who observes Sanyam, someone who observes control or discipline. So he says, I'm Yam. Now we need death. Death is also important. So, you see, in this COVID time, many people have asked, where is God? People are just dying here and there. There was one lady who asked me, how do I see God in this time? And she is an avid reader of the Bhagavad Gita. Avid reader. She sings the slokas so beautifully, so beautifully. So I said, then you have to open up to chapter 10. So she says, yeah, but I keep forgetting. She says, I lost my next door neighbor who was a dear friend of hers, same age. And she said she just passed away in the COVID, and I kept asking, where is God? But you do tend to forget if someone is very close to you and dear to you. But he said, I am death. We need some kind of a control. And also, death reminds you that there is somebody higher than you. You are not in control. There is somebody else in control. So we look at.
Yeah, and not death. Actually, life would be unlivable without death.
Of course, yes.
So, that perspective,
Yeah,
does not come readily without reflection. But if you just
absolutely.
dwell on it,
Yeah. So Vinoba says that without the village is beautiful, a village or a society is beautiful because of the cremation ground at the end of the village.
hmm,
Yeah. Things can't go on. And death is not only a physical death, it can be death of an object, an object breaks, or we lose an object, or death of a relationship, death of so many things. Your clothes wear out, your body wears out, it's a different thing. But so many things wear out and you have to throw them. You can't continue with the same things again and again. So he says, I'm Yam, the god of death among the Sanyam Dham, among the controllers or the rulers.
But Ashaji, Yama in the Yoga Sutra has a different meaning, no? Yama
Yes,
Niyam.
Yam is different. Yam is again restraint over there. So the
Yeah,
Yams are restraints and the Niyams are observances.
right.
How the English translation is control, social
Yeah.
behavior, where you control yourself when you're living in society and you observe the niyams when you're alone. So ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, and aparigraha. That is in relation to society. When you're in the social world, when you're interacting with people, then there is control. And the personal control is in the niyams.
But this the way Yamraj is defined, this one is
Yeah,
शासन करने वालों में Yamraj हूँ, is that might be very congruent with Yama being discipline, because Anushasana is also Shasan in a
correct, correct.
mind,
Correct.
in an individual sense.
Yes.
So it's very interesting. I mean, I don't notice this before. This
Yeah,
first I'm noticing the
yeah.
that Yamraj is ultimate amongst the, and of course, yes. I mean, death is what provides discipline to life.
Yes.
If you realize that death is there, then
Yeah.
it sets the boundaries on the way you live life.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so that it's um, Yam is Yoga Sutra begins with Yam,
Yeah.
with a certain form of personal discipline.
But Ashaji, I'm not very happy with the English translation here.
Okay.
Yeah, because it has to be taken in the context of Yama Sanyamatamaham.
Yeah. Sanyam.
So it has to be related to Sanyamatam.
Yeah. Not
And
Rupa.
similarly,
Yeah.
Naga, Anantaschas Naganam,
Yeah.
Nagas, in Mahabharata, Nagas are referred to as tribal people. There
Yeah.
are a lot of Naga lokas, that means kingdoms ruled by the Nagas.
We have
And these
Nagaland.
Nagas are hill tribes.
True.
If you go by Mahabharata,
Yes.
Mahabharata doesn't treat them as the popular version of Nag being serpent.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So it is believed
So,
that
if we take it in that sense, in that context, what would Ananta mean?
unlimited,
Yeah,
infinite.
right.
So also, sir, in those days, it is believed that Vishnu, this Aditya, sun, like when he says among the Adityas and Vishnu, among the sun is also an Aditya, right? One of the 12 Adityas. So all these were actually human beings with
That's
power.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So even the snakes, the Garud. Now we'll come to the Garud. So these were human. The Uchai Shravas horse, then the Airavat elephant, Indra, the Lord of Heaven. These were all beings with different kind of bodies. And even human beings had alliances with these, like there were children born of human beings and Nagas. Children born of the Nagas, children were born.
Yeah, but Nagas were actually people, the tribal people, because there is
Yeah,
a story of Arjuna and Ulupi. Ulupi
correct.
is a Naga princess.
Naga princess.
Yeah.
But they were shaped like the bodies were like Nagas, we don't know.
No, they're not referred to as
As
serpents in
the
Mahabharata. They are referred to as actual human beings.
actual human beings, yeah.
Yeah.
But there are stories of, Nagas also, the children born of to a Nag in the Mahabharata. This there are those, not Ulupi is of course with Arjun, but there are like Garud and the serpents. You know, the serpents are the Garud is the enemy of the serpents,
Yeah,
right? So these
yeah.
serpents actually there, they are children born to a sage out of a Naga princess, which is, she's actually in the form of a snake.
Okay.
Okay, those stories are also there. And where does this Garud come from?
Hmm.
That is also the child of a princess, which is not a human being, who is not. These kind of stories are hard to believe, but these stories are there in the beginning of Mahabharata. So there are other. Sorry.
No, no, no. Please. Hmm.
So last time when Sabir Bhai was talking about Bajroli also, there is a story of this king who is asked to go out, but at that time there's a lot of passion in him, and how he controls the semen, and then how a drop of semen falls on something and a fish is born out of that. So all those stories are also there. You know, when he was talking about that. So these stories are there by Vyas in the Mahabharata. So I was kind of relating it to that when he was talking about Vajroli last time, which is there in the
Okay.
Mahabharata. Then
Yeah, but
Vyas says that whatever you will find in the Mahabharata, you will find elsewhere, and what you don't find in the Mahabharata, you will not find anywhere else. Yes, sir.
no, I'm saying that those stories uh, can be taken literally, but then
Yes.
they are not believable.
Yes.
They don't remain believable.
Absolutely.
But if
So
they are taken as cultural history,
yes.
if they are taken as history of a culture,
Yes.
then they might have something to reveal to us.
Yes.
So that's why I'm saying that if Mahabharata actually uses Naga to refer to tribal people,
Yes.
then we should also try make an attempt to understand these things in that context.
Yeah. So then how do we understand?
Otherwise, the 21st century youth will not accept it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That
or
is
it may look at it in a different way.
true. But they won't know anything about these terms also. They would have never heard Marut, Rudra, you know, so many things. You have to go deep into it. And if you go deep into it, you have to study the whole Indian history.
Right.
If you go deep into one area, like if you go into deep into Anantnag, then you have to go so deep into Indian history to get to the root of Anant. How did Anant come about? What is its origin? And what all did he do?
Yeah.
Whom all he was in contact with? Who were his children? How did he die? Like if you Google something, then you have born, dead, personal life, this life, you know, achievements, so many things. So you have to go deep into that area of that person and understand that person. So you have to understand this area deeply. Well, then now who's Aryama?
Yeah.
Who are the mains? So, yeah. So maybe they are applicable to a certain set of people. Don't know. Can't say. So, shall we go to the next verse?
Yes. प्रह्लादश्चास्मि दैत्यानां कालः कलयतामहम् मृगाणां च मृगेन्द्रोऽहं वैनतेयश्च पक्षिणाम्.
Yeah. So he talks about Prahlad. Now we know the story of Prahlad. Prahlad was just a little child. And his father says, prove to me where is God. Who's that Narayan or who's that Vishnu who's going to come and save you? I am the ruler. I am the king. But he says, no, I have faith. You can kill me if you want. But then the Narsimha avatar emerges from the pillar of the palace, and he kills Hiranyakashipu, and Prahlad is saved. So also when you think of Prahlad, you think of faith, his absolute faith in the Lord of the universe. Though he was a small child, he went against his father and believed that there was a higher power which was higher than his father. So, and he was an Asuric child who was trained not to believe in God. Now here again we can we can go deep into who are the Suras and who are the Asuras. But now the Bhagavad Gita says that he's Prahlad amongst the Asuras. The one who believes in God, the one who has deep faith in God. I am that Asura who believes in God. Then he says, I am Kal, Kalyatam Aham. I am Kal among the calculators, the ones who keep, calculate time. So now time is calculated by so many things, by the clock, by the calendar, and different areas calculate time differently. It's like in music you have the tal, or in dance you have a different time rhythm. You have rhythms. Like when you have music, you have the beats, and you have different pause and the different movements in dance. I don't know because one has to go deep into that area. But like the farmer would calculate according to the seasons or the movement of the sun or the moon. So there are various ways to keep time. You can keep time in according to the breaths, how many breaths, or lifespan. So many things can be there to calculate. So he says, I'm time. Time, which is eternal. Time keeps moving. It never stops. Now, the perspective of time can be different. It's a measuring system. So he says, I am Kal. Now again, we can go deep into it and come to infinity because time is infinite. Then he says, among the beasts, I am the lion. Mruganam Mrugrendra. So I am the lord of the beast, I am the lion. Now Vinoba writes that the lion is so majestic, and it is said that the lion's roar is heard 8 kilometers away. Like we have the Siha Mudra in the Hatha Yoga. We have not yet done it, I guess. I think Sabir Bhai would be able to enlighten us on the Siha Mudra. It activates the vocal cord, activates or strengthens it. And it is said in one of the Hatha Yoga commentaries, if I am right, Sabir Bhai, that it can help cure memory.
Very true. It is not mudra, it is Sinhasanam, which is in. Yeah. Yeah. So mudra is a gesture which is being expressed in the other text, which is the modern text, and the contemporary teachers in order to make it happen that way. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But the practice and the benefits are the same.
It can cure stammering.
They say because it has a very good impact on the root of the tongue. Sinha Mudra has a very good impact on the root of the tongue. So the attachment of the tongue more to the lower jaw is released and made flexible. Thereby the stammering as well as the speech improves. That is how it goes.
Correct. Thank you, sir. So the lion's roar is very powerful. It can be heard 8 kilometers away. That is proved. And so maybe the asana is based. Anyway, the yoga asanas were based on different animals and on objects of nature. So he's talking about the lion. And the lions there are many qualities to the lion. They actually move around in groups. They move around in a pride. And the lion is actually sleeping most of the day. And only when he's hungry, he goes to get the prey or to hunt for his meals. Otherwise, he spends much of his time resting. So that's about the lion. He says, I am the lord of the beast, I am the lion. Then he says, among the birds, I am Vainitya, the child of Vinata. Vinata was actually a bird. and that is a child born through a sage. Now, Garud is born through a sage. We can go into this Garud history. We have this Garud Puran also, which is based on this Garud, which is the vehicle of Lord Vishnu. And it is said of the lion that he is a king, but it is said of the eagle that the eagle is an emperor. So many qualities are ascribed to the eagle. The eagle's eyesight is 3 times more than the human eyesight. Very sharp sense of perception, very sharp. And the eagle is so strong, its wings are so strong that it can kill a fawn and it can carry a baby fawn which weighs more than 6 to 8 kilos. It can carry that on its wings. So the strength of the eagle is very, very high. So he says, and we know that the eagle is the vehicle of Lord Vishnu, the Garud. So I am the king of the birds. Now again, like I said, we can go deep into these. Even I don't know how much more to talk about the eagle or the lion or the so many other things which are mentioned. One can meditate on them, go deep into them, and come to a certain kind of realization, which would be God. So, shall we move on to the next verse, sir? Sir, you're on mute.
Pavanah pavatamasmi Ramas shastrabhutamaham Jashanam makaraschasmi Srotasamasmi Jannavi.
Yeah. So he says, among the purifiers, I am the wind. Among wielders of arms, I am Sri Ram. Among the fish, I am the alligator. Among streams, I am the Ganges. Now, wind. Now, Vinoba writes a lot about the wind. He said, where does the wind come from? Where does it go? And it carries the messages of the Lord. It whispers melodies in our ears. So the wind is the messenger of the Lord. He says, I am the Pavan among the purifiers. So the wind carries the sound of the birds, sound of the smell of the earth. It carries the messages of the Lord. And the winds are the touch of the Lord on our skin. Actually, you can meditate. We have a certain kind of a meditation where you sit in the normal meditative pose like a Sukhasana or Padmasana, and you just feel the touch of air on the parts of the body which are exposed. You may be wearing a shirt, but if a certain part of the hand, the fingers, the ears, the face, the feet, which are not exposed, you feel the touch of air on those parts and you just meditate on that. It's a kind of a meditation. And of course, the wind is a purifier. It carries off things from one place to another. It cleans off. A gust of wind can just, throw away the dead leaves from a certain place or just carry off certain things. So the wind is a purifier. Seed dispersal happens through the winds. So many things happen because of the winds. So he says, I am the wind. Then he says, among the wielder of weapons, I am Ram. Now, Ram is again associated with Dharma. The weapons are there, but he will wield the weapons on the basis of Dharma. It's not an indiscriminate use of weapons. Then he says, among the aquatic animals or among fishes, I am Makar. Now, Makar in some books is translated as the shark, and in this book it is translated as the alligator. So whatever it is the strongest animal among the aquatic animals, in which the power of God is most prominent. We have a Rashi also, Makar Rashi. So a zodiac sign, which is Capricorn. I think it is Makar or maybe Cancer, I don't know. One of the Rashis is a Makar Rashi.
Makar is Capricorn.
Capricorn, correct.
Capricorn.
Right. Then among the streams or the flowing waters, among the flowing bodies, I am Dhanu. Brahmanvi is the river Ganga. We had spoken about the Ganga once in the class. Ganga has the purest of waters. And, Sunilji, you were one day telling us about science proving Ganga waters, which are so pure, in one of the previous classes. Yeah. Yeah. It is among the moving waters or the flowing waters, the river Ganga, which is world over considered to be very pure. Scientifically considered, the waters are considered to be pure. So again, we can go deep into the history of Ganga. Now, Bhishma Pitama was born. Now, Ganga as a river or Ganga as a human being. The mother of Bhishma Pitama is Ganga. So she came as a form and married King Shantanu. So all those stories are there. So yes. So all these things, all these objects, animals, trees, beings, He is like the head of a certain company, and the powers have been given to certain people to manage the company. So, in the same way, if we imagine the universe, He is the head of the universe, and He has given His power to so many people to manage the universe, like the cow, or the horse, or the elephant, or the weapons, or the winds, or the aquatic animals, or the animals of the land, and so many other things. So they have the powers, and the powers have been given to them by God. So when we go deep into them, we ultimately do. So shall we do the next verse now?
सर्गाणाम् आदिरन्तश्च मध्यं चैवाहमर्जुन अध्यात्मविद्याविद्यानां वादः प्रवदताम् अहम्.
So we will discuss this. What you were mentioning last time. Okay. So Arjun, I am the beginning, the middle, and the end of all questions. All knowledge is the knowledge of the soul. Among disputants, right type of discussion. So among creations, I am the beginning, the middle, and the end of all creation. Whenever anything comes into existence, the beginning is God. Like we are creations of God, or if you think that we are creations in this world, we have been created by our parents. So the beginning is God, the middle is God, and the end is God. So I am the beginning, the middle, and the end of all creation. So it is not like our calculation of time of 100 years or 1,000 years or a millennia or whatever. It's infinite. I am the beginning of all creation, the middle and the end. So then he says, I am the knowledge of all the knowledges. The highest knowledge is the knowledge of the soul. And then he says, I am Vad Pravadatam. I am logic or I am discussion among disputants or among controversies. So would you like to discuss this? This is what you told last time about asking questions, if you remember.
Yeah.
And I said we will come to it. So would you like to say something about Vad?
So, you know, Vad and Vachan, or only speaking, are two different things. Vad, to me, is articulation.
Correct.
So those who are talking, the
Yeah.
one who articulates.
Yes.
So there is something which happens in the brain by which our mental activity takes place, and we try to reveal.
Yeah.
We try to reveal what is the essence of what we are trying to say, and that is articulation. So I think he is referring to that power which makes us articulate things.
Yeah. Correct. So one of not of course Vinoba doesn't talk about it, but you see, if you think about Vad, then Vad is divided into Vad, Vitand, and Jalpa. So Vad is logical discussion. Like if we discuss now, you spoke about Anantnag, Nag being the tribes, which is right. You have a point, and we all agree to that. Then there is Vedant is where people go on saying no, but it is said over here. How can you refute it? Trying to assert oneself without understanding the situation. And Jalpa is again a very overbearing kind of an assertion, where you simply just out of power you just prove yourself to be right. Like Vinoba in one of the chapters, he says that I was talking to an professor, and the professor was talking about something, and he says, "No, I have been teaching since 18 years. I am right." So Vinoba says that he should have, if he was teaching since 18 years, then he should have proved his point to me. There was no need for him to assert, okay, I have been teaching since 18 years, I am right, don't know anything. And he put a stop to Vinoba's talk. So Vinoba very jokingly tells him that a bullock has been, turning the oil ghani and extracting oil since 18 years. It doesn't get enlightened by, just going around the oil ghani for 18 years. So by doing the same job, you don't become enlightened. So even though you've been teaching since 18 years, it doesn't prove that you have been enlightened. So, so this anecdote is there in the top of the Gita in one of the chapters. I don't remember, but this just came into mind. So there are some people who just prove their point. I have been teaching since, like you tell a child, I know better than you. I'm your mother or I'm your father. Maybe the child has a different perspective. So what would be logically proving that this is right in a correct manner? That could be one meaning. So, sir, what you said would also be, the art of expressing yourself. Something happens, you read something or you hear something, and something churns in your brain, and you express it in a manner. So that would be a word. And the knowledge, or naturally, out of all the knowledges, the highest knowledge is the knowledge of the soul. All other knowledge has a limitation. So, anything else we would like to say on these verses? Anybody else?
Vad may be, kind of an organized or an articulate or a logical expression. Like we have Samajvad, Yadvad, and all. These are all particular, kind of expressions of a certain viewpoint.
Maybe. You have Atankvad also.
Atankvad also, right? That's right. I mean, that's also one way of proving, assert your point.
Yeah. Samajwadi, Atankvadi. I mean, so many Vads are there, right? True. Interesting. So interesting when you go into details of these words. Yeah.
But once again, if you look at the particular usage of the word vad,
Yeah.
in
Pravdata.
Sanskrit,
Yeah.
we use it in our languages today.
Yeah.
But the way it is used in Sanskrit is where a point of view has been articulated. Vade vade jayate tattva bodhaha.
Yeah.
So there, vad is not used in terms of an ideology, but it is used in terms of
Articulation, but then
articulation, expression of a point of view.
exactly. But it's a non-violent expression. I mean,
It's a non-violent expression. Yes.
You're not forcing your point
right,
of view
right.
on other people.
Yeah.
So you express your point of view.
That's right.
If another person does not agree, well,
Yeah.
very well. But you have just kind of expressed yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sir, suppose you were to translate it as, would that be correct? Suppose you were to translate Vad as paradigm.
That is the way we use it. Yeah. The way we currently use Vad is in terms of paradigm. But in the context of Sanskrit, originally it was not a paradigm, but it was something which gives rise to a paradigm. But you are right in that sense, because the point of view comes from a paradigm. Point
Correct.
of view comes from a
The
paradigm.
seed of
Yeah.
the paradigm is a certain point
Yeah.
of view.
Yeah. And it's a logical point of view. So then how would you translate pravada? Pravadatam. Pravad.
Pravadatam. Pravadatam is whatever is currently, whatever is the popular wisdom, that I simply repeat. I am repeating only popular beliefs or
Okay.
popular current wisdom.
Okay.
But when I take an independent point of view and express and articulate what I see, then that is where original thinking comes in. That is where that supreme power is there, which
Yeah.
makes me see things and express them.
Yes. True.
That's why they say, no, Shabda is the origin. The way that I expressed, the first letter that I expressed.
Yeah. True, sir. Okay, so we'll go on to the next verse. Aksharanam Akarasmi.
Aksharanam akarosmi dvandvas samasikasya cha ahamevakshayah kalo dhataham vishvato mukha.
So among the letters, I am A. Among the sounds represented by the various letters, I am A. The different kinds of compounds in grammar, I am the copulative compound. I am verily the endless time. I am the sustainer of all, having my face on all sides. So among the letters, among the sounds represented by the various letters, I am A. Now, again, I think about, like maybe Sabir Bhai can affirm or negate. So I had read somewhere that those who find the beloved in the letter Alif, in the Urdu language, the first letter is Alif. So this was, I had read somewhere that those who find their beloved in the letter Alif need not open the Quran.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
That is a understanding for me also now. I need to study more on it. Thank you for making that happen. Yeah.
Yeah. The law of Alif, you see, and Alif is written like a line. So it, like the God descends from up into the universe. So this is what it said. There is another story also. Child goes to the teacher Alif, and he says Alif is nothing but God. I don't remember that story, but I remember Dr. Saab talking about it once in his lectures, that about a little boy.
Yeah, I would really love to know that.
Sorry?
I would really love to know that story. If at all it is there with you, you can share it later on also. Will do.
I remember hearing this story about this child who is teaching his teacher about this Alif and God. That God is there. And Allah also begins with the letter A.
True. That is true. Yeah.
And even Om in Hinduism, Om is actually A. Like Abhibai is often said, Om. Om also begins with So those who find their beloved in the letter Alif need not read the Quran. So beautiful. So you can just go deep into it. So these things are there. So the Alif is sending down the divine grace. And so this is about the letter A. And all sounds come from A. Like in the Devanagari script or in the Sanskrit, like ma. We say ma. Ma is ma. Ma plus a. Per. y, r, r. It has the sound So when you have the half ma, you put that line down. So you say ma, like how would you say sama, but some ma. So if there's a full ma is always attached to an a. A is always there with all the other words. So this is about a. So any other contribution to this letter a? Or we can go on to the next word, which he says, among the sounds, I am the letter A, then I am the different kinds of compound, dvandva, the compound. So the Jodakshar, or like you say, Ram Lakshman, or like you have brother, sister, then the word comes as siblings. Or you have mother, father, then the word which comes as parents. The parents is a dvandva, it's a pair, it means a pair, mother, father. Sibling is brother, sister. It already has the dvandva in it. So he says, I'm the dvandva. Yes, sir. Sir, you're on mute here. Yeah.
It's a beautiful way of describing, because when you form a dvandva samas, like say
Yeah.
brother and sister. So brother, sister, you see as one. To be
Yeah.
able to see them as one
Yeah.
is it
Yeah.
the beauty of that
dvandva.
samas. No, it's not simply grammar, but
Yeah.
the way we see gets translated into that grammar.
Yeah.
So when we say Stri Purush,
Yeah.
we are looking at them as one.
One.
To be able to see that oneness,
Yeah.
and that is what is hinted, perhaps.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Maybe even I'm not very good at this grammar, absolutely hopeless, but this is what I would take the meaning as to see God as one in everything, like you explained. Yes. Yeah, so you can go so deep into it. There's such a beautiful story of the grammarian Panini, Bhagwan Panini or Lord Panini. Now, when Vinoba writes this story, and I've heard this story otherwise also. So one day he's sitting in the forest and he's with his group of students and he's talking about grammar. And suddenly there comes along a tiger, Vyagra. So then he says, Vyagra, whose sense of smell is so strong, and he goes deep into this word, breaking up of the word Vyagra, and how it means that whose the sense of smell is very strong. So you would be able to break it up better. And then the story says that the tiger eats him up. For him, there is no difference between the grammar as God and the tiger as God. For him, he sees oneness in everything. In tiger, which is actually there in front of him, and the word tiger, which is made up of these syllables, the one whose sense of smell is very strong. And so he's beyond this body concept. He's actually attained samadhi by this grammar. So you can go so deep into these things. So when this verse comes, then the story of Panini comes into mind.
Yeah.
Then that grammar see me. You're so totally lost into this grammar that you actually attain samadhi.
So he actually, the story is that he gives rise to the word Vyagra,
Oh,
because
okay.
by saying
Yeah.
Vyajigrati iti Vyagraha,
Okay, okay.
and then the tiger devours him.
Yeah.
So Vyajigrati,
Vyajigrati.
Ajigrati means you are able to smell from a
Oh,
distance,
okay.
and you add V to it, means with great strength.
Okay. Wow.
Strongly you are able to attract that smell to you. So Vyajigrati iti Vyagraha.
Vyajigrati iti Vyagra. Wow.
Yeah.
Nice. So then
So he gives rise to the word, the grammar, and he is devoured at the same time.
Same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like so beautiful that there is no limit to what extent you can go deep into meditation on some object. Finally, you've given up your body sense and you're one with that object. So ultimately, we have to come to that where it's like Anand Samapati in an asana, where you reach the ultimate state. You may do just one asana and you gain the ultimate. I don't know. Doctors have always used to say that Sukhasana, he used to tell us about how Buddha sat for 8 hours in one position and he, gained the ultimate realization. He says we can't sit for 8 minutes. After every 8 minutes, we want to straighten our legs and get into a different pose. Why? Why can't we just sit? We have not trained ourselves because we've not trained our life to, to be that pure or to our life is based on other what goals and other motivations. It runs into different directions. There is no one pointedness in our life that we want to achieve this. We want to do so many things in that 1 hour. So he used to very strongly talk about, gaining something out of an activity. Like he would tell us that when you do asanas, you have to gain that right state of mind and you carry forward that right state of mind into the other activities of the day. That state of mind should not get lost. Yes, so this is about going deep into these things.
Also on Dvanda, see, this is a tremendous amount of both to mundane life and to attainment. See, because Dvanda relates to, when you see Dvanda means you see polarity. So a negative charge is perceived as opposite to a positive charge, negative, positive. So night is perceived as opposite to day. Death is perceived as opposite to life. That gives rise to the entire, entangled way of thinking or an opposing way of thinking, which creates conflict. The point of realization is samadhi, samadhan, resolution, where we are able to see polarities not as opposite but as complementarities. So positive and negative poles make up the magnet.
Yeah.
Right? Night and day make up our, kind of existence. Death and life, as we earlier on the session, make up, again, existence. So, and in fact, one can move. So, what does it take to transcend polarity into complementarity? Is basically an increase in awareness. So we see myself and others again as polar. The moment we start to expand our sense of identity, we find, okay, family is all right, this is one unit. Then we say neighborhood class. Okay, that's further, so there is complementarity. Neighbors help sustain you, you help sustain the neighbors. Then you expand that circle to, include maybe society and so this by itself can be one whole, a way of reaching to the ultimate, simply by progressively transcending duality and seeing the complementarity in the so-called opposing elements.
So this is precisely what Vinoba also says, that from this letter, from this dvandva, ultimately come to see the sameness in Ram also and Ravan also. He says if Ram is like I have said this last time also, like if you see the letter A, you see only God, Ram, but you have to join the letters, no? How will you read otherwise? How will you read prose, poetry? How will you read literature if you don't join letters? So he says that ultimately you have to move on from the simple to the complex. From the simple to the compound. And then you see God in everything. You see God in Ram also, you see God in Ravan also. You see God in the simple also, you see God in the complex also. Only then you're able to move through life.
In fact, so poles, the opposites are actually interdependent on one another.
Yes.
There is one story that I heard that, there was a bishop who was kind of, cycling down and and he comes across, he sees somebody who seems to be injured and who is, seems to be in throes of death. And of course, the bishop, he, wanted to help. As he moves closer, he sees that this person who is suffering is none but the devil himself. So now the bishop is in a bit of a quandary. So he hesitates a bit. He goes there, but he hesitates a bit in terms of giving assistance to the devil. So devil asks, please help me. So bishop says, yeah, but I am a little hesitant because you and I are, we have different paradigms. Let's say. He said, look, but you are obviously you are a religious man. You are the embodiment of compassion, and could you not express compassion towards the even if it is a devil, it's a living being, so you have to express compassion. So the bishop said, yes, I mean that you are right, that is true, but he still seemed a little hesitant. So the devil said, okay, never mind this the religious angle. Look at business. Would you be able to exist with your religion, with your church, with your sermon be able to exist were it not for me, the devil? So bishop immediately saw light and put him on his back and took him to hospital. So the opposing forces actually help sustain one another in life. So
yes. So we have time for one more verse. We can do one more verse. Sir, you're on mute, sir.
मृत्यु सर्वहरश्चाहम् उद्भवश्च भविष्यताम् कीर्ति श्रीवाक्च नारीणाम् स्मृतिर्मेधा धृतिः क्षमा.
He says, all destroying death. Sarvahar. I am the all destroying death that annihilates all. I am origin of all that are to be born. The Bhavishya, whatever is to come in the Bhavishya, I am the origin of that. Then I am, he's listing 7 virtues. I am Kirti, Sri, Vak, Smriti, Medha, Dhriti, and Kshama. All these are feminine virtues. So he says, I am that. I am the femininity, I am the masculinity. I am everything which is there in this universe. I am there in the virtues. I am in death, which is the all-devouring or the all-seizing. Whatever is destroyed is because of me. Whatever is born in the future is also because of me. And whatever is virtuous in this world is also me. Some of the virtues which he is listing. So, do we need to discuss this or shall we move on?
No. We need to discuss this, no?
Okay. All right, sir.
Because has he mentioned anything so far as men are concerned, or it's all the virtues are only of women?
So
I'm just trying to look at that whether because traditionally in Sanskrit all the ripu are masculine and all the gunas are feminine. The shadripus are all masculine.
He's not mentioned strength as in valor, strength.
Yeah, nothing is mentioned of men.
Yeah, nothing is mentioned. So,
sir, I think that is just as it should be. Feminine energy is the giver of life.
Yeah.
The intellectual lord of the universe. So, if there were to be any vices in the feminine, we would have inherited those vices in any case. So, our purity is, arising from the purity of the feminine force. So, to the extent that we are anything, the credit goes to the feminine energy.
Now there is no Purush, there is no male and female in in the, what do you say? There is no male and female element in what would you say in literature? Oh no, there is in literature, yes, but in
Divinity. You are saying in divinity?
in the Atma there is no male and female.
Or the other way is to see that both of them coexist.
Coexist, yeah. We
So
don't know if God is a male or a female. We don't know because the Atma has no attribute of a male and a female.
but in all religions it is a masculine gender. For God, masculine gender is used.
Yes, it is true. Masculine gender is used.
Though we have goddesses, but the gender of God is masculine.
Masculine, true. But like you don't know whether there's one Purusha or infinite Purusha, so we don't know whether there is the Purusha is masculine or feminine.
Right.
It is masculine because Prakriti is feminine. In
Right.
that way, yes, yes.
Right.
So,
So one can say that, when there is an excess of the gunas or the
Yeah.
positive qualities,
yeah,
they can become doshas. They can turn into ripus.
yeah. So then they become masculine.
Yeah, when they become masculine, they become ripus.
They have a lot of strength in them.
Yeah.
Right. So, any other thoughts, Sabir bhai, would you like to discuss on this?
I am trying to make myself, how these things may be going ahead with these facts. So no comments here. I'm just learning now.
Okay. But sir, because when the these with true, when the good comes, then you can become. This is true. So maybe the strength, excessive strength could be masculine, and that's why this could be feminine. Maybe one of the ways to look at it. Sunil ji,
नहीं,
But,
हाँ,
yes, sir. Sunil, बोलिए.
नहीं, please, sir, please. आप-
What I have seen as a practical observation throughout my life, men are physically strong, but women are mentally strong. Because and they have a greater capacity of tolerance. Tolerance